Hi, everyone, and welcome back to English for You. I'm Erin.
And I'm Mike.
And we are talking about time capsules and sort of what they're used for and kind of what you can do and feel when you open one. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about making one, but let's sort of just recap what we learned in day one. So a time capsule is a package that contains things from the present day, that's right now, that can be opened in the future, much, much later.
That's right. The idea is you fill them with interesting stuff, you put them in the ground, and then in the future, not like next year or 5 years from now, we're talking maybe 50 years or 100 years from now, people can dig them up, can open them up, and see this stuff. They can actually touch and play and look at stuff from our time. But of course, for them, it's history. This is for them a long time ago to give them just a little bit of a flavor of what it's like. Imagine being able to go to a museum and take the cups from ancient China and drink from them and use them in your normal life. It would be kind of special, but of course, you can't do that.
No, not in real museums, no.
But with a time capsule, you kind of can.
Yeah. Okay, so time capsules are usually buried in the ground.
Yes.
What's important when you do that is to remember where it is.
Right.
Put a marker there, write the location on a piece of paper, that sort of thing.
And what do you put inside?
Lots of different things. So some things that people usually include, electronics, like a Nintendo game system or a smartphone, clothes, toys, coins, like the money we use, books, newspapers, photos, and seeds.
Seeds.
Seeds is an interesting one. You know, what we grow changes over time.
That's true. If you looked at corn or wheat from 100 or 200 years ago, it would actually be different.
Right.
So that would be kind of cool. It would be a living thing, a living time traveler. Not a person, but a plant, but still. And here's another idea, a recorded message. You can make a recording of your voice speaking or just write a letter to yourself or to the people in the future who will be opening the time capsule, talking about the time you live in and giving them best wishes for their life in the future.
All right. Well, let's get to today's article to find out more about building our own.
Okay.
Reading.
Make your own time capsule. Think carefully about what you will put in your time capsule. You should put in objects that represent how we live now. A cell phone from 2018 may not be useful in the future. However, it could be helpful to show about life in the past. You can also include something personally important to you, like a family photo album or the tickets from your favorite movie. Don't forget to put in a note. After you pick your items, decide where to put your time capsule. If you decide to keep it inside, you can use a shoebox. You'll need a metal can to protect the inside from water if you bury it outside. It's a good idea to put everything inside in plastic bags too. Once it's ready, put packing tape around the lid of the capsule to seal it. Make a note of its place so you can find it again. Finally, decide when in the future you should open it.
All right, so let's look at the beginning of the article. It says a very good bit of advice, actually. Think carefully about what you will put in your time capsule. Yeah, think very carefully, because it's not going to be super big, right? You have to bury it underground. So it's not going to be big as a car. It's going to be more like a small box.
Right, like a shoebox.
Like a shoebox or even just a little bit bigger, but still, you can't put a bicycle inside. You don't want to put things in that will go bad, like don't put in some bananas or, your pet fish.
Banana seeds, maybe.
Banana seeds, maybe, but not a banana or your favorite goldfish. And certainly don't put in things that are kind of boring and don't change very much. You know? Like a pair of socks might not really change a lot in 100 years.
Our feet are probably going to be the same shape.
Yeah, probably. You know, and so put in some things that will be different. You know, think of things that 100 years ago were quite different, and you know, kind of think along those lines.
Right.
So think carefully, choose wisely.
Now, here's something to help you in your decisions of what to put in. It says here, you should put in objects that represent how we live now. Now, what we're saying here is that you should represent our lives now. So when one thing represents another, it is a symbol of that thing. So these objects are symbols of your current life. For example, a symbol of my life might be a smartphone. I use my smartphone a lot.
You're always on that smartphone.
No, not as much as other people, but like maybe an example of a smartphone. Maybe not my real one, but like if I have an old phone in my house, that's a really important part of my life. So that would be a good symbol of my life.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, here is another way we can use the word represent. It says here, when car companies test their new cars, they use dummies to represent real people. And the reason they do that is because they usually crash the cars into the walls, and you don't want to put real people in there. You want someone to represent people.
Yeah, they wouldn't like that job.
What's something that might represent you in a time capsule, Mike?
Gosh, well, I think maybe music. That might be a good one, because that's something that does change over time. Again, kind of like with a smartphone, you have to think about, people be able to play this CD or record or tape or whatever it is, you know. And that kind of brings us to the next sentence in our article, which says, in a very, wise bit of advice, a cell phone from 2018 may not be useful in the future.
Oh, that's my example. God.
Exactly. And it's something most people would think first, it would be their first idea, because now in these years, cell phones are so important. Everyone has a smartphone. We live a lot of our life on it. We use it all the time. But yeah, if you turn it on in the future, first of all, will it be able to turn on? Will the battery work? Will you be able to give it more battery power by plugging it into the wall? And of course, if you did turn it on, you wouldn't get a signal, right? And the internet might not be the same. And even if the internet is the same, it won't be the internet from 100 years ago.
No.
It'll be the internet from that time in the future.
Right.
So, you won't be able to look up the president and see Donald Trump or something. It'll be the president in the future, which hopefully will not be Donald Trump.
So we can agree on that.
In 100 years from now. Anyway, so think about it, because a cell phone being a machine might not actually work, right? Cars from 100 years ago might not work if you pull them out and try to work them now. Same thing with computers and smartphones and stuff like that.
That's right. Okay, so we did see the modal verb.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, the cell phone may not be useful in the future. When we use these different verbs, we're using modal verbs, okay? And they're really useful when sort of talking about possibilities, about things that we could or maybe we can or maybe cannot do, especially in the future. These are verbs like must, may, like we saw in the sentence, must, can, could, and might, all right? So we're basically using them to show that there's a chance, there's a possibility, but it's not for sure. It's not 100%. To go back to our sentence, it said a cell phone from 2018 may not be useful in the future. It may be useful, right? They might still be able to use it. Notice I used may and might in kind of the same way. We could also say a cell phone from 2018 might not be useful in the future. It's a possibility. We don't know, but we're kind of pointing it out to sort of remind you that there's a chance that this won't work. It might not work.
There is half a chance that it will work and half a chance that it won't. And we just say may or may not. Okay.
There you go. For example, if it is raining on the weekend, we may not decide to go to the beach, or we might not decide. But we don't know. We won't know until we see what the weather is like.
Okay, well, let's continue on in the article here. It says, however, it could be helpful to show about life in the past. Now, we see another modal verb in that sentence. Mike just talked about it, could. And this is kind of just used like may is. It expresses that it's possible for something to happen or be true in the future. Now, since we aren't 100% sure what will happen, we use these modal verbs to say that something is possible or likely or even not possible or not likely. Here's another example of a modal verb. The man's death could have been an accident. So we're not 100% sure how the man died. It was possibly an accident, but perhaps it was something else. Now, what you might notice in this one is that we're talking about something that happened in the past. And so we sort of changed it around a little bit. We said could have been. So it happened in the past, but it's still talking about possibility.
There you go. Now, of course, it's really good to put in sort of history-related things, newspapers, recordings, things like that, pictures of famous people. But it doesn't just have to be about the world or the society or the country you live in. You can make it also a bit more personal, about yourself. It says you can also include something personally important to you, like a family photo album or the tickets from your favorite movie. Yeah, so you can make it a little bit about your own life and your own experience living in the time that we live in now. It doesn't have to be like stuff in a museum. It can be like stuff you might find in your family's attic or closet or things from your grandma. You know, it's interesting to see that. A photo album might be a really good choice. An album, here, this is a noun. Basically, an album is a collection of related documents, pictures, music, things like that. A music album will be recorded usually by one artist. Taylor Swift will make an album. She'll give it a title, Reputation, and then she'll put 10 to 15 songs on it. They're all by her. They're all performed by her. They're all, you know, maybe about her in some way, but they're not all the same. They're a little bit different, but basically it's a collection of her work.
Right.
A photo album is a collection of photos of you and your family or of you and your classmates or something like that. So a family photo album might be a good idea. For example, we could say for the word album, this is an album of photos, drawings, and other memories of my time in high school. So it's all related to that time, me, my friends, high school, all of that kind of stuff, all in one place in this album.
And once you've got those personal items in there, here's the last piece of advice for what to put in, at least. Don't forget to put in a note.
Right.
Of course, you want to write a letter to the person who's going to open it in the future. Maybe it'll be your great-great-grandchildren.
Oh, yeah.
And you could even write a note to them, and that would be some special for them.
For sure. Eat your vegetables.
Yeah, don't talk back to your mother.
That's right. Don't watch too much 5D TV.
Just a big list of rules.
There you go.
That might not be a very interesting note.
Don't let the 3D printer do your art homework.
Yeah. All right, so what can we do next?
All right, next it says after you pick your items, that's the important part, picking or choosing your items, decide where to put your time capsule. Yeah, it's not really much good to just leave it on your desk or leave it in the kitchen or something like that. You want to put it somewhere safe. So they have a few ideas here. First of all, what to make the capsule out of.
Okay, so if you decide to keep it inside, you can use a shoebox. Now,
yeah, that's true.
There's a reason for that. You don't want to bury a shoebox because it's cardboard and
paper.
It is not going to last for 100 years underground.
The worms will eat it.
Right, exactly. So if you do use a shoebox or another paper box, keep it inside.
I guess you could put it in a big plastic bag or something like that.
Yeah, plastic doesn't go anywhere, we've learned.
I'm not sure that would be the best way or the safest way.
We do have some advice for if you do want to bury it, though.
Yeah, and this is what most people would do. It says you'll need a metal can to protect the inside from water if you bury it outside. A metal can or a metal box. Metal, of course, is something that's very strong, and it can resist a lot of things like water and changes in air temperature and worms and other things that might eat through your paper box. Metal is basically, well, it can be two things. Metals are natural elements we find in the earth, like iron or lead or gold or silver. But in this case, we're using metal to talk about an alloy or a combination of other metals. Steel is a metal that's an alloy of iron and some other things, and we combine these at a high temperature, and then we use them to make metal, steel, aluminum, things like that. When we think of metal, we think of, what a lot of machines are made of. Cars are made of metal, parts of of buildings are made of metal, that kind of thing. For example, we could say most smartphones are made of a combination of glass, plastic, and metal. Yeah, there's some metal in there to keep the body strong.
Yep.
The glass is the screen, and the plastic is used because it's light and easy to work with, right?
Right.
So, but for something that you want to be waterproof and very, able to be buried underground, I would say not glass, not plastic, metal would be your best choice to protect it.
That's right. So when you protect something, this verb means you keep it safe from something bad, like damage or illness, and death. So for example, you are driving down the road on a scooter and you want to protect your head by wearing a helmet.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to keep your head safe because if you get hit by a car, then you'll hurt yourself.
You won't remember where the time capsule is.
Exactly. So you want to protect your body. You want to protect your things. You want to keep everything safe. Here's an example. If you're going to hike up a mountain, you should wear good boots to protect your feet.
There you go. All right. Let's see the article. It says it's a good idea to put everything inside in plastic bags, too. Yeah, plastic bags are a little bit stronger than maybe a cardboard paper box. Plastic can also, of course, resist water and air and things like that. And as long as you don't bury it for too long, the plastic should still be fine. What is plastic? Basically, plastic is another material, kind of like metal. Like metal, it's made of a combination of things, but generally it's kind of an oil-based product. And the good thing about plastic is it can be made in almost any shape and size, any thickness. You can mold it into all different sorts of shapes. Lots of things are made of plastic. Things we use in the kitchen because plastic is easy to clean. Toys are made of plastic because it's safe for kids to play with. Lots of stuff is made of plastic. But of course, we also know plastic is not good for the environment because it stays around for hundreds and hundreds of years and causes pollution. But anyways, let's get to our example sentence. Lots of people now think that plastic straws are a danger to the environment. Yeah, recently
you don't want those turtles to eat the straws.
No, I'm using a straw now. I should throw it away. I have some metal straws at home, though.
You just need to carry them with you.
I should buy more and bring them with me, yeah. But plastic is very useful for things like that.
It is. All right, well, let's continue on to find out how to finish up your time capsule. So you've got everything in it. You maybe wrapped it in plastic bags. You've got your metal can or your shoebox in here. What you do, once it's ready, put packing tape around the lid of the capsule to seal it.
Ah, good point.
Now, when you seal something like a bag or a door, you close it with something to stop air or water or anything else from really just getting in and out. So when you seal something, you're stopping things from going in and out, basically. Now, we want to do this with the time capsule to keep the water and air from destroying the things inside it. That's very important.
Yeah.
All right, now here's an example sentence. I put the card in the envelope and then sealed it shut with some glue.
Oh, okay. So you're closing it very tightly. Now, we wouldn't use seal to talk about like closing and locking a door. That's not quite the same because air still gets in. But when we talk about sealing it, we're talking about protecting it from the natural environment, for example. And here's the last very, very important tip. Make a note of its place so you can find it again. All right. Yeah, definitely. X marks the spot. Write it down. Make a map, like a pirate treasure map.
Oh, hide it somewhere in your house.
Tell a really, really young person with a really good memory, because it would be a terrible thing to hide it and then have no one in the future ever find it again.
Someday in the far, far
I guess that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
If instead of finding it 50 years from now, someone finds it 500 years from now. But yeah, if you're going to put it somewhere, definitely try to get other people to remember where it is. And here's actually the last tip.
That's right. Here it says, finally, decide when in the future you should open it. Now, if you're going to do it in the far distant past, you're going to decide this for other people, not yourself. Now, if you want to maybe open it in 20 years to kind of look back at what your life was like, only a couple of decades ago. You can decide on that date.
That's true.
Yeah, you just need to know where it is, remember the date that you want to open it. I'll tell you, it's pretty easy to forget things over 20 years.
That's a very, very good point.
So you want to write this down somewhere. Tell other people about it too so they can help you remember. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our article. I hope you guys know how to make a time capsule now, have planned what you're going to put in it, that sort of thing. But we're going to finish up now with our For You chat.
For You chat.
All right, our For You chat question today. Where would you keep your time capsule and why?
Good question. Well, let's see. I think burying it. I like the idea of burying it.
Yeah, I like drawing a map. And,
it's quite romantic, the idea of like digging it up 100 years from now, like a scientist or a pirate looking for treasure. So I think maybe in the grounds of a school, you know, go and find your elementary school or do it with your classmates now. And then, you know, as you get older, maybe if you still live in the same neighborhood, you can tell your grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. So that would be kind of cool. I think that would be a good place. And plus, it's great for kids, I think, to kind of touch some history and really make it come alive. Are there some other places you could think of?
I would say maybe somewhere that's close to your family.
Right.
So, like, personally, I have a piece of land in my family. It belongs to my grandmother right now, but it will pass on to someone. But that sort of piece of land is very important for everybody in our family. So maybe somewhere there.
Okay.
Near there, yeah.
That's a great idea, too. So what about you guys? Do you have an idea of where to put your time capsule? And, of course, probably even more interestingly, what would you put inside? Lots of stuff to chat about there and maybe even some ideas that you'll want to take on yourself. Make a time capsule.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Let's say goodbye.
All right, we'll see you in the future.
All right,
but
bye-bye.
maybe not 100 years.
No. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Make your own time capsule. Think carefully about what you will put in your time capsule. You should put in objects that represent how we live now. A cell phone from 2018 may not be useful in the future. However, it could be helpful to show about life in the past. You can also include something personally important to you, like a family photo album or the tickets from your favorite movie. Don't forget to put in a note. After you pick your items, decide where to put your time capsule. If you decide to keep it inside, you can use a shoebox. You'll need a metal can to protect the inside from water if you bury it outside. It's a good idea to put everything inside in plastic bags too. Once it's ready, put packing tape around the lid of the capsule to seal it. Make a note of its place so you can find it again. Finally, decide when in the future you should open it.
Vocabulary Review. Represent. This shape represents the MRT. If you see it on the map, it means there's a station there. Album. Kenny's mother has an album full of pictures of him when he was a child. Metal. I don't like metal chopsticks. I like to use wooden ones. Protect. The wall next to the river protects the city if there's a flood. Plastic. Betty bought a new plastic case for her phone. Seal. You should seal that bottle again before the water gets out.